Plan C podcast coming at you on a Thursday. Well, this will be coming out on a Thursday. Today, doing an NFL quarterly check-in. What do I mean by that? So me and a sports writer friend of mine, former mentor, or not even former mentor, a mentor of mine, we decided that every 4 weeks we're gonna break down what happened in the NFL, award watch, coaches fired, favorite teams, so on and so forth. Make sure you listen all the way through. Got some great stuff in there. And if you haven't already, feel free to like, share, subscribe. Check us out on Instagram. Check us out on Twitter. Check out previous episodes. Our last episode, we talked to Lauren Ortega, and she went into what it was like being a student, running your own design stuff, running your own podcast, and everything else involved in that. Make sure you're staying updated. What happened this week will be returning next week, Wednesday, so make sure you check that out. Other than that, I'm going to get out of here, prepare you guys for this lovely, lovely podcast. Make sure you're subbed. Make sure you're following all that good shit. Listen to previous pods. Peace. And we are back. For the first time, I am joined by my, I guess I'll call you co-host for this sort of NFL quarterly check-in, joined by AJ. AJ, how are you today?
Good, man. Thank you for the title of co-host. I appreciate it. How's it going?
Yeah, it's going all right. Sadly coming off of a Saints loss, and I was looking at the film yesterday just because I'm writing a piece about what's going on with the Saints, and man, I did not like what I saw.
What a weird team this year. I'm sorry. That was an interesting game, wasn't it?
No, it really was, and I was able to watch every down because, for most Saints games, it's out of market, so I have to watch. I'm sure, living in Albuquerque, you feel my pain watching the Colts, because none of the games are in market, so now that the Saints are playing AFC East and NFC East teams, I have the opportunity to watch all these games, so I was able to watch every down, and, I'm not going to get too deep into it, but basically it's a problem with play calling, and I think that's where our issues lie. Anyway, so this is a new thing we're doing on Plan C. Basically, we're going to break down a couple of things that we noticed in the first quarter of the season, and we will reconvene every 4 weeks in the NFL. We'll do stuff like award watch, whether that's offensive player of the year, defensive player of the year, coach of the year, whatever it is. We're not going to touch comeback player of the year because it's unnecessary and it's a narrative thing. We're going to talk about coaches to be fired, favorite non-contender, and so on and so forth. So I am going to start off with our first award watch, which is MVP. AJ, who are some of your MVPs for the first quarter of the season? Well, I guess it's not even quarter anymore, because it's not 16 games. Yeah.
You're talking about the quarterback award, right?
Oh, hey, I mean most of mine are quarterbacks, sadly.
Okay. I don't know, man. I was kind of thinking this around. For me, right now it's a 3-person race.
Okay.
It kind of switched up a little bit. It was solely, in my opinion, Tom Brady up until this week. Not that he did anything bad, but coming off a loss, it's just, your opinions change a little bit. So I still think he's up there because, he's leading the league in, he's second in passing yards after last night. He's up there in touchdowns, has a good touchdown to interception ratio as always. He's got a lot of veterans around him. But dude's 45 years old. That's impressive, man. That's so ridiculous that he's still playing at this rate.
Just quick on Tom Brady. One of the things that, obviously the age thing is insane, and him playing at such a high level at 44. And it's not just that the numbers are there. He looks great. Like that last season in New England, he didn't look cooked, but you were like, okay, like we now this is starting to end, and that was not the case.
No, you know what? That last year, I thought I've always kind of hated Tom Brady, so I've always been hoping for his downfall. But I mean, when you look back at it now, and you see him put up 24 touchdowns, which is the lowest he's had in a long, long time in his career. That's still kind of impressive with what they got down in New England. Like, that was not a good team following Tom Brady's exit.
Seriously.
A little bit into this year.
Yeah, seriously.
So, maybe he was carrying that team more than we thought. I always thought it was Belichick, but...
Yeah, I mean, legacy rankings, Brady's definitely got a leg up on Bill right now. Anyway, other MVP that I definitely have Brady on my list. I have Kyler Murray.
He's kind of inching towards the top of my list as well.
Yeah, 4-0. They've beaten some solid teams. Playing despite Cliff Kingsbury, who I know he hasn't had a major fuck up this year, but it's Cliff Kingsbury, so he's third in passing yards. I think he's the best playmaker not named Lamar or Patrick. He's leading the league in completion percentage, which I know they do the air raid offense, but that's still really impressive for a third-year guy. Yeah, what do you think about Kyler?
I agree. Kyler's right up there with me. 12 total touchdowns. Like you said, he's up there in passing yards. And his team's undefeated right now.
Yeah.
They just beat a really, really good Rams team.
And not only they beat the shit out of that Rams team.
Yeah, it wasn't even close. I knew it was going to be that way. We're in a Survivor League together. You can go check my picks. I picked the Cardinals. I just had a feeling. And you know what? Last year we saw a lot of up and downs from the Cardinals. They beat a really good team, and then they lose to mediocre to bad team last year. If they're not doing that this year, and Kyler's playing like he's playing, I think that's a really solid team.
I definitely think Kyler also was pretty banged up towards the end of last year. You can see it when watching him, especially towards the end of like the late games. He had those Rams games where Nuke Hopkins got locked down by Jalen Ramsey, and he wasn't able to have the same effect on the game. And I think now that he's healthy, he's able to tear up the league once again, because I had him in last year in fantasy, and in the first part of the season, he was a menace. I remember, I think it was week 8 or something, and the Cards were first place in the NFC. And it was like, wow, this is kind of shocking for a second-year quarterback. But anyway, moving on. Sort of two more chalky picks, and then I'm going to move on to a couple non-chalky picks. Mahomes, obviously, he's leading NFL in TD passes, playing with the defense that he has to drag along. He's also just Patrick Mahomes, just making plays that other people can't. Josh Allen as well. Just, again, sort of two of the easy ones. Besides, he's not putting up the numbers right now, but I think, the MVP voters, they love a narrative, and the Bills just absolutely shredding the past opponents. I think they've won 100 and plus to something like 20. I think the MVP voters just love that type of shit, and even again when he's not putting up Patrick Mahomes-esque numbers, they're still going to be like, well, look at the dominance. Look at the dominance. I don't know. It's something I noticed with Drew Brees, where it's sort of the opposite Drew Brees thing, where the team itself is doing so well, it elevates the MVP case.
And that's, again, goes back to why I'm leaning towards Kyler. But that's funny. Patrick Mahomes, yes, he's going to put up the stats. I just don't find it that impressive anymore. I really don't. It is impressive, don't get me wrong. But I have one person that was third on my list. Like I said, I was teetering between 3 players that you didn't even mention.
Okay.
That's Matty Stafford.
Matt Stafford is also on my list, yes.
He's playing phenomenal this year. Granted, it's another situation very similar to the Bucs, in my opinion, with the way that team is built.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of veterans. They've, in my opinion, they have the 2 best defensive players in the NFL. Right? They have duo, I guess, a wide receiver. I don't think super highly of Robert Woods, but he's solid. Cooper Kupp has just been amazing this year.
Mm-hmm.
They're really doing it with no running game. I mean, it sours a bit because you saw, like you just said, they got the shit beat out of them by the Cardinals. But we finally get to see what Matt Stafford what he was capable of. That he's free from Detroit.
Yeah, I think this last weekend for the Rams is one of those take the tape and set it on fire, because they're coming off of the Bucks game, which was a really big sort of emotion game for them, and I think it's really hard to get up for sort of those for two games back to back like that. I think it's just tough. So I definitely agree with you on the Stafford case. The Cardinals game I don't think should do too much into him, but it's definitely something to note where it's like, well, Matthew Stafford doesn't have a ton of big wins, and I know in Detroit he was getting the shit beat out of him with no defense, and I know, but I don't know. I'm not 100% there yet. I need to see more from him. Just two more MVPs. Actually three more I have on my list. Non-quarterbacks actually. Derrick Henry, just because he is right now on pace to have an Adrian Peterson MVP type season, and I don't think they'd give it to him, not with Stafford and Josh Allen and Mahomes and Kyler Murray all up there. But damn if he's not having a crazy season. He's leading the NFL in rushing yards by over 150 yards, which after 4 weeks, that's fucking insane. And he didn't even have a good week 1. That's what's insane to me. People were like, Derrick Henry fall off, blah, 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 blah. What do you think?
He's also leading the NFL in rushing attempts by 32. So I put that in there. I mean, who's next behind him? Joe Mixon? Mixon's hurt. I mean,
yeah, it's
Kamara, another 30 rushes, and he could probably come close to that 510 rushing yards. They just feed him the ball so much. And I'll put this out there straight away. I'm a Colts fan. I really dislike the Titans. I don't like Derrick Henry. But I mean, gosh, he didn't have a good week 1 because he only carried the ball 17 times. He carried it 35 the next week, 35 the next, or 33. He already has 113 attempts this season, or 4 weeks into the season. I find that pretty crazy.
I got you. That's fair. It's a fair criticism.
Hey, you can't knock the guy. Like, you look at the stats, there's no argument. Right? He's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And that's his thing. Like, he beats the hell out of you as the game goes on. Like, more and more, he touches the ball. He just wears people out. I get it. That's his thing. But, I mean, that usage is ridiculous. Like, he's gonna bound to have a shit ton of yards when he's touching the ball that much, or you would at least hope so.
Fair.
Luckily, that's been the case so far. So another player I'm not saying I don't find him impressive, but
no, I hear you, and again, I felt to throw him in there just because of sort of the dominance. Yeah, you sort of have to. Well, I actually have 2 more on my list, but Trayvon Diggs for the Cowboys right now. More interceptions than games has. I don't know if it's just happenstance or what, but Dallas, they look solid on defense, and that's even after losing Tank Lawrence. What do you think about Trayvon Diggs?
I was a huge fan of Trayvon Diggs. I was super surprised last year when he slipped to the second round of the draft, but I mean, he didn't have a phenomenal rookie year. He's playing good. I'll give him that. He's playing good. He's getting a shit ton of interceptions. He's 5. Like, that's anytime a guy reaches 5 picks in a season is pretty impressive. But the guys did it in 4 games. Yeah, it's impressive. But I just would. I don't know. I think I will go my entire life without seeing a defensive back win MVP. I just don't see it happen. Should it happen? Yeah, maybe.
I agree with you. I think 5 interceptions in 4 games can't really be ignored.
No, not at all.
And last one for me, Justin Herbert. I think there's definitely, sort of, there's the new coach and beat the undefeated team, and you beat Patrick Mahomes. I think there's definitely some buzz around him.
Yeah, now that the Chargers sitting in sole place at top of the AFC West, that's impressive, man. It's good. It's good. He's played phenomenal this year, and really, in my opinion, he doesn't have a phenomenal cast around him. Like Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Austin Eckler, they're all solid players. Jared Cook, solid, but he's doing a lot more with a lot less, and he's so young too. Like I fully expected him to have a sophomore slump this year, and he's definitely not.
Yeah, no, for sure. Honorary mention for me, just Derek Carr. 3-1. I know he didn't win last night, and at times he just looks so lost, especially when Joey Bosa's caving in his line. But I don't know. Thought I'd throw him in there. He's looked good this year. Any other MVP mentions before we move on?
I think you've hit them all.
All right. Coach of the year. Who's your first coach of the year?
I have one and one only.
Okay.
It can obviously be an argument.
Yeah.
You made fun of the guy earlier. I think it's right now, and it's based off of typically whoever has the better record, right? Whoever coaches their team the best has the best record. Cliff Kingsbury, man. I've been super impressed. I thought that was okay. I thought it was this horrible hire the way that he. Anytime a guy jumps to the NFL without being super established in college.
But he coached Patrick Mahomes. Come on, AJ.
I know. He didn't have
No, I got you. Yeah, I got you.
Texas A&M.
Yeah.
He was headed to be the offensive coordinator with USC before he backed out.
Yeah. It was something bizarre.
Yeah. He was hired as the offensive coordinator in December, and then he started getting his talks in January. So, the way he kind of went about it, like you said, it was bizarre. It was weird. And I thought, that's not going to happen, right? Unless you're a huge name college coach, you're not particularly going to do well. But, damn, that team has progressed each year that he's been their head coach.
Yeah. I'll give him some credit. He definitely has the offense looking good, and he hasn't fucked up Kyler Murray. Which with quarterbacks, it's easy to fuck up a quarterback, a la Jets Sam Darnold. For me right now, I have a couple. I think Sean McDermott, while he hasn't gone up against good teams, the Steelers, Washington football team, Dolphins, and Texans, those are not good football teams and probably will not be making the playoffs. He's winning against the teams he should minus week one, but week one is always weird. Both sides of the football are playing so well. They can't run, but it doesn't really matter.
Their run game has stepped up. Both Zach Moss and Devin Singletary have been doing a lot better.
Well, I mean, when they do it against the non-Texans, Dolphins, Washington football team, and Steelers, then yes, I will buy in. But for now, I'm not convinced. What do you think about Sean McDermott?
Sean McDermott's solid, man. I can agree with that one. Like I said, my bet is all on one person, but if there's gonna be a second, Sean McDermott for sure, and probably Urban Meyer, third, close third.
Wait. Urban Meyer?
Totally joking.
Oh my goodness.
That guy's not even gonna be a coach.
We'll get to favorite coaches fired. Anyway, I've got so remaining on my list, I have Gruden, just because I think if he's able to win that division, I think he's got so many friends in the media. I just think there's going to be such a whip up of, oh, look at the free agents he's brought in, look at Derek Carr's playing level. And I'm not saying he doesn't deserve credit, but I just think that for the media, that is the easiest choice for them. That's just how I feel. Brandon Staley.
I did lie to you. I do have one more, but I'll let you go. I'll let you give your other one before I say it.
Brandon Staley for the Chargers. Sort of the same case as Gruden minus the media thing. He was in Los Angeles last year with the Rams. He sort of the darling hire, I would say. And the Chargers look great. Besides a game against the Cowboys that they dropped, they're playing great football. Beat the Chiefs, and I think the most important thing, he's not Anthony Lynn, and when there's such a disparity in good/bad coaching decisions, I think that just makes your case even more so for you.
I really like Anthony Lynn.
I love Anthony Lynn. I just don't think he's a great coach.
I think that team was underperforming for a couple different reasons, but let me throw out one more name. I know I said I only had one on me, but I'm a liar. What about Zach Taylor? Yeah, I think it's super impressive what he's been able to do with the Bengals this year.
Ooh, I just don't know about the Bengals. That,
No, I agree. The fact that team is even looking decent, I mean, you can overlook the wins, you can overlook the record, right? I get that. That's fair. It's easy enough to do to write it off, but I think it's got to be more than just a record. Like the fact that Joe Burrow is starting to look more and more comfortable, like he's just something you just said. Like I'm surprised that they didn't fuck up Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
Right after how
right.
hard that guy was getting beat, and everyone was shitting on the Bengals for taking Jamar Chase over Penei Sewell.
Yeah.
In the draft, I was one of them. I thought that was a stupid pick, but like.
Oh, so did I. I was like, your quarterback's gonna die, but sure, get him his best friend wide receiver. Sure.
Yeah, and look at how that's worked out. Like, he's looked comfortable. He's looked phenomenal. Like, he's progressing week and week, and he's kind of... I mean, yeah, they're not playing phenomenal teams. I'll give you that. Right, they beat the Vikings. They had a bad loss to the Bears. They beat the Steelers. The Steelers don't look very good, but they beat the Steelers. That's a divisional win. That's a tough win. And then they barely beat the Jaguars. I get it. They're not beating good teams, but like you said earlier, like they're beating the teams that they probably should beat, minus the Chicago Bears.
Yeah. No, I can definitely understand a case to be made. I have yet to see it, and I just definitely don't believe in this Bengals team. Anyway, one more. I have one more, and then I have an honorable mention. Matt Rule for the Panthers, 3-1. Playing at a decent level despite the injuries. Defense kind of looks like before they played Dallas. Defense kind of looked like the best defense in the league. And damn, Sam Darnold looks competent, and that was kind of a shock. I thought he was cooked. What do you think about Matt Rule?
I like Matt Rule. That came out of nowhere from like somewhat of a no-name, unproven college program. But I agree. I thought Sam Darnold was kind of cooked, but I think it's more of a testament to how bad Adam Gase is.
Oh my goodness, yes.
But no, the Panthers have looked good. They're really disappointed last week. I mean, but they're doing it without their best offensive player. Like they're doing it without Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
So you give a little leeway, but I mean, if they can turn Sam Darnold into a competent quarterback, which he has looked like since getting the hell out of New York, yeah, I think Matt Rule he's gonna get a lot of credit for what he's done to his team so far.
Yeah, definitely. I want to get your opinion on my honorable mention. Mike McCarthy. What do you think?
We'll see. TBD. I mean, granted, yeah, the Cowboys are sitting at 3-1, right? Credit where credit's due, and they're beating decent teams too. Like they had that week 1 loss. Not really, like you can't knock them too hard for that. For some reason, I want to say I won't chalk it up to Mike McCarthy, but I guess I will. Like that defense is playing solid. They were one of the worst defenses in the league last year. It's like you said earlier, they're doing it without DeMarcus Lawrence. Okay, yeah, you've turned me around. I've talked to myself.
Yeah, no, I am such a Mike McCarthy skeptic, but I'm I'm doing my stuff yesterday. I'm looking at records, and I'm like, wow, Dallas is 3-1, and they have beaten good teams. Like,
Their one loss was barely to the defensive.
exactly, on a very questionable non-pass interference call. So,
And they're doing it in different ways too. Like,
yeah.
You talked me around to it. I'm not a huge Mike McCarthy fan. Like you said, I'm a huge skeptic too. But
Right? It's so tough. It's so tough, but you're like, I guess I have to include him because I don't know. I thought the defense would not be good, but now they have people like Micah Parsons playing in two positions at high levels, who's a rookie. I don't know. I knew Micah Parsons would be good coming out of Penn State. I think I had him fourth to the Falcons in our mock draft, but I didn't see this. You know, this is some needle flipping shit.
Yeah, like I said, they're leaning heavily on their defense this year. They're not having to have Dak throw for 400 yards a game this year. They're not even having to have Zeke run the ball for 25 plus times this season. Like Tony Pollard's chipping in. They don't have like a premier go-to tight end, but Dalton Schultz has really played well. They're pretty rounded off. I'll give them that.
Yeah. All right. Any other coach of the year before we move on?
No, you've named them all.
All right. Defensive player of the year. I think obviously Trayvon Diggs, who I didn't know was brother to Stephon Diggs.
Stephon Diggs, yeah.
I learned yesterday, and I was like, whoa, that's a proud family.
Yeah, seriously.
You know, we talked about it earlier with MVP, more interceptions than games, sort of a bright spot on a good Dallas defense. Yeah, there's not much else to say. I think we would be remiss if we didn't mention Myles Garrett. You know, I know he was able to tee off against the Bears, but he's sort of headlining just a really dominant defense in Cleveland. Plus, he's the sack leader.
He is, like you said, he just completely tore apart Chicago a couple weeks ago. That defense is finally getting it together, so it helps them out a lot. Yeah, to kind of go back, like these NFL awards, MVP, offensive player, defensive player, all these fun awards, like they're very stat heavy, right? So the fact
seriously.
Player has 6 sacks so far in 4 games, yeah, it's gonna get him some nods. The fact that Trayvon Diggs has 5 picks, which is still ridiculous at 4 games, that's gonna get him some nods. But there's a guy who I think is probably never really gonna show up in the stat box that I think so far has probably been the best defensive player in the NFL.
Is it?
Vita Vea.
Oh, Vita Vea. Okay, I did not have him on my list.
He is playing phenomenal. Like he was playing great last year. They made that Bucs defense so good last year before he got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
He's back. He's a huge man. He just plugs up the middle of any lane, any offensive line he's playing against. He's just been dominant. And you saw like on Sunday night that he is like I say, he's the only reason, but he's one of the main reasons that the New England Patriots had negative -1 yard rushing as a team that entire night. Like that is pretty unheard of.
Yeah.
He's like past the age.
Yeah, no, as somebody who has to see him twice a year, he definitely horrifies me. Because you know, Andrus Peat, Eric McCoy, and Cesar Ruiz are interior starting linemen. They kind of just always get caved, and I'm sort of haunted by that. And anytime we play, you know, we can't run outside because Levante David and Devin White are too fast. And we can't run inside because Vita Vea and Ndamukong Suh are just waiting. And it's like, this is such an embarrassment of riches. It's not fair.
Yeah, and he's like one of their only like homegrown players at this point too. Like,
I remember when they drafted him out of Washington. I thought it was a joke because for the first 2 years of his career, he was just injured or trash.
Yeah, he was very mid-level. Yeah, I thought they were gonna ruin him. I was back when the Jameis Winston Bucks, like where they weren't good, but he took a huge step up last year. He's taking a huge step up this year. Those Washington defensive tackles, I've always been a huge fan of. But I mean, man, he looked just look good. Like he's never gonna pop off. If you kind of know what to look for, you'll see him. But he's never gonna be like this 10-sack kind of guy. But he's just like he impacts the game in a lot of ways that it's kind of hard to equate to stats. And like I said, it sucks because that's all these awards typically are, stat heavy. But he's looked phenomenal, man. He really has.
Yeah, it's sort of the same way that Aaron Donald will never win MVP at D tackle D line, because his impact just can't be measured. And I completely agree with you. I didn't have him on my Defensive Player of the Year list, but he should be, just because of the impact he has and the things. He allows Tampa Bay to dictate to the offense rather than vice versa, and I think that is just it's powerful.
Yeah, I agree.
Who's next on your list?
I still think T.J. Watt.
Nice.
T.J. Watt, he's solid. A little banged up right now. Didn't play last week, if I'm not mistaken, or the
Week before, yeah.
I mean, he's already had two two-sack games, right behind Myles Garrett with 5. I mean, he's phenomenal. He's probably, in my opinion, he's looking like he might be better than his brother was. And even though that, well, maybe he's taking a huge step forward. I know J.J. Watt had those crazy years, like year 2 through 5. It was just ridiculous.
Yeah, where they started putting him at tight end.
Oh my god, yeah, forgot about those years. But yeah, he's been phenomenal this year as well.
Word. I have Von Miller on my list.
Yep.
I was sort of just on Football Reference, and I was looking at league leaders and stats, and Von Miller leads the league in TFLs, which I was like, oh, that's a thing. That's interesting. I didn't realize that. I know they haven't played the top tier competition, but still impressive for me. I know there was a question coming into the season whether he'd be on the roster. I know they talked about cutting him. So to see him sort of go out there and sort of earning and showing his worth is really impressive to me. And I think, he deserves some recognition for that.
I agree. He's played great. He had his contract thing, his age was already kind of putting him on the roster bubble maybe. And then he had his whole legal issues that he was dealing with.
Yep.
That was a real weird situation. But no, Von Miller's looked phenomenal. And like you said, the Broncos haven't particularly played phenomenal teams. And when they kind of did, they played like the Ravens. Yeah, they didn't look good. But you could also kind of chalk that up to the fact that they lost their starting quarterback. I agree, Von Miller's looked solid. He definitely 100% should be in the conversation.
A couple of honorable mentions. Max Crosby, before yesterday, he was second in pressures, and apparently he hadn't missed any tackles. And if you want to look at if you want to point to somebody on the sort of evolved Raiders defense and be like, hey, difference maker, I think Max Crosby is easily the best choice for that. He passes the eye test too. Somebody who's got a really high motor, and just you see what you get, and I think that deserves a little bit of recognition as well.
I wouldn't be mad at that. He's really good. I think he's always kind of been solid. His rookie year, yeah, played Colin Farrell.
Yeah, we're not even going to talk about that. What the hell happened to Farrell?
They have a surprisingly deep rotation at defensive end, and I noticed it when I was watching the game last night. That they have 4 solid, should be solid. I don't know if Cleveland Farrell's been solid. They have 4 should be solid defensive ends, and they still cannot generate pass rush as much as they should be.
Yeah, seriously. My last honorable mention, Javon Hargrave on the Eagles. Third in TFLs. It's just another one of sort of those Vita Vea players, Aaron Donald players, where they're just not gonna. Their impact is not gonna show up in the box score. You have to go to those advanced sites to see. But yeah, I just felt he deserved a mention.
Well, I mean, he is second in the league in sacks.
Yeah, yeah,
He is showing up.
yeah. You know, on a bad, beat up Eagles team, just a bad Eagles team who I think could be the worst team in the NFL. But I don't think they'll get there, but they could be. Could be. Any other mentions before we move on?
That's a good slew of defensive players right there.
Yeah, definitely. So, Offensive Player of the Year, I think, for me, it's the most annoying award next to MVP, because if MVP is the quarterback's award, then whose is the Offensive Player of the Year? Then you see quarterbacks winning Offensive Player of the Year, and it's like, wait, what? You're not letting any position players get a chance. But starting us off, I have Derrick Henry, who we talked about above. Obviously, throw any of the quarterbacks we talked about. You can toss them in there. One we forgot to mention for MVP, but could easily slide in, and I believe is like top 5 in odds. Dak Prescott, showing that you can break your leg like Gordon Hayward, but you can still come back and be a monster. And yeah, I think that's sort of easy. Deebo Samuel is going to be my first sort of in-depth, nomination, if you will. 120 yards a game, while only being 4th in targets. There's just something kind of crazy about that when you're putting up Calvin Johnson numbers with Jimmy freaking Garoppolo and a rookie Trey Lance as your quarterback. I don't know. For me, his numbers jumped off the page to me more than almost anyone.
Yeah, he's looking pretty good. He's getting targeted a shit ton.
Yes.
Not really any other wide receivers that are standing out in that offense. They can't really run the ball because they're hurting, right?
Yeah.
So they have to throw it somewhere. Not Jimmy Graham. I meant to say George Kittle. George Kittle's kind of been dealing with some injuries and whatnot. Brandon Ayuk can't even get on the field. They don't really have anybody to throw to. Like, he's getting targeted a shit ton. He already has 42 targets through 4 games. Dealing with some drops, but man, he's putting up ridiculous numbers.
Yeah, he's really hooping. I'm not gonna lie. Cooper Kupp, thought I should throw that in there. He's really getting it done this year, and seems to be that Matthew Stafford likes him as his number one. And in the McVay offense, is there a better 1-2 punch, quarterback to wide receiver in this early slate? I'm not so sure. Yeah.
No, I agree. No, there's not. They've been. I mean, he's been dominant. I like to see what happens, how they rebound after this first loss on the season.
Yeah, we'll see. Also, just an honorable mention, Justin Jefferson. Got so much attention last year for being so good. And this year, still putting up consistent numbers. And I know people love to shit on Kirk Cousins, but damn, Kirk Cousins is playing well this year, folks.
Kirk Cousins is. I like Kirk Cousins. I've always thought he was pretty underrated.
I never thought he was $30 million a year, but hey, that's just me.
No, that's how the market is.
Yeah, seriously.
No, I never was upset about it. Yeah, Justin Jefferson's been phenomenal. I don't know if I would have thrown him on my offensive player of the year list. Maybe he's been good. Like, I was worried he was just gonna be a 1-year wonder, especially because I drafted him in multiple fantasy football.
Oh, you weren't the only one.
What about Tyreek Hill?
I think Tyreek Hill will never win an Offensive Player of the Year award because of who his quarterback is.
Okay.
And I loved Ty Hill and Travis Kelce, but they will never win awards unless it's an All-Pro or a Super Bowl. Just because of Patrick Mahomes, because it is so easy to say, oh well, if you didn't have Patrick Mahomes, you wouldn't be getting those numbers. People will be so quick to play that card, and that sort of part of the narrative is always going to sway voters so much. It's so annoying, but it's so true.
That's actually a very good point.
Do you have any others before we move on, coaches that you think will be fired?
Kind of already mentioned it earlier. We touched on it. Urban Meyer.
Oh.
That was a train wreck of a hire to begin with. I don't think it was going to work.
And after this past weekend, oh my goodness.
What a weird situation. Yeah, he's first and foremost he's gonna go. I think Matt Nagy might have extended his time a little bit, but I definitely think he's still. I mean, he's on a very very short leash.
Yep, absolutely.
Another coach who I would absolutely hate to see go. Again, being a Colts fan, but I think is might be a little bit reasonable. Is Frank Reich. He's been on the hot seat this year. He's not coached well at all.
Frank Reich has he made my list. He was actually first on my list.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Pardon?
Let's dive into it.
Yeah, so I think that while Matt Nagy grabs more of the attention, I think Frank Reich has sort of done a worse job. And I know he's dealing with injuries and, you know, Chris Ballard is a good GM, but he's not the wonderkind I thought he was. You know, there's always been, you know, oh, the Colts have X amount of cap space, and, you know, the Colts are making all these moves, but I don't know. I always held him in such high regard, and this is the first year where I've kind of been like, well, they've never taken that next step since Andrew Luck, and I know the Andrew Luck thing was sort of devastating, but I don't know. I just haven't seen more from either Frank Reich or Chris Ballard, and I think the Carson Wentz thing is going to end up being a disaster. I like the effort Carson Wentz brings, but I don't think he's the guy. Frank Reich, I also think his in-game decisions are just lacking. You've also got 3 very solid running backs, and like can't figure that out either. I don't know. It's not looking good for me. You know a lot more about the Colts than I do, so please.
You've given me a lot to work with.
Yeah, please.
I will say this: I'm not gonna put up with any Chris Ballard.
Okay, all right.
Very, very, very upfront with what his plan was. He said, you know, when he got hired, he said, this isn't going to be a thing where we're just going to turn around and, you know, contend for a Super Bowl revenue. It's going to take a couple of years. It's going to take a lot of years to kind of get to where we need to be going. Right?
Fix Ryan Grigson.
Oh, my God. Ryan Grigson put a bulldozer to that building, almost literally. And it's made a huge, it made a huge dent in that organization. Right. I know a lot of Colts fans complain about we have $100 million. Let's go out and sign people. And he has, but I think he's been pretty smart with the money. Right. The Colts right now currently have like the lowest amount of dead cap space in the NFL. That's just they don't give out stupid contracts. Like he's made big splash moves, but coming into the season, the Colts were put in one of the worst predicaments between players leaving, retiring, whatever. Right? We came into this offseason needing a starting quarterback, needing to probably upgrade a wide receiver, maybe a tight end. Our left tackle, our franchise left tackle retired, which I think that's impacted the Colts way more than any other loss this year. We'll get back into that. Needing an edge rusher, probably a corner. That's like 5 of your premier, most important positions the Colts need to fill.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen in one season. I think they did a decent job of bringing in players. I really don't. I'm not. I've seen the how much people love to hate Carson Wentz thing, right? It's just a thing that people like to do.
Oh, people love to shit on Carson.
People love it, and it is what it is, right? I have a hard time like not laughing, but I gotta disagree with it big time. I think Carson Wentz has been probably the brightest spot on this Colts team this year. He's gotten his ass beat an immense amount of times. And like I said, I see so many people saying, well, it's weird. He was the most hit quarterback last year, and he comes to a team that had the best offensive line. Why is he one of the most hit quarterbacks this year? Maybe he's the issue. That loss of Anthony Costanzo at left tackle was huge.
Yeah.
Huge. Like immeasurable. He was phenomenal. He's never like an all-pro player. A couple Pro Bowls here and there, but I think he was wildly underrated. huge loss right there. Now, he's been getting his ass kicked, right? Our starting left tackle didn't play the first game. No starting right tackle the second game.
No Q Nelson, right?
Nope. We lost Quinn Nelson in the third game. Haven't played the third or the fourth week. We've had our backup left guard flipping mildly. But we just put ourselves into situations where we had to get away from the run. The only game I'll disagree with was week 3 against the Titans, where, Jonathan Taylor was averaging 6.3 yards per carry. We should have just been feeding him the ball, running it down their throats, and we kind of got away from it. They kind of figured it out, like, this past week, that you just feed Jonathan Taylor as much as possible. He's one of the best backs in the NFL, in my opinion. Just give him the damn ball. That's all you got to do.
Yeah. Wow.
But I see the reasons why Frank Reich should be on the chopping block. But if you look at the teams that the Colts have lost, I really don't think that them sitting at 1-3 right now is huge. Like, I think we play the Baltimore Ravens coming up Monday night, and we play Houston the week after that. I think the Baltimore game will be a huge indicator of how this season will go. The Colts come out completely flat, get their asses handed to them. Yeah, that's the season. And if that's the season, if you're sitting at 1-4, then I think you almost all but have to move on from Carson Wentz. Even though I don't think they should, I think you almost have to. Just because of the trade compensation, the way that trade was kind of built out. But Frank Reich, his fourth down and his red zone offense efficiency has been horrible. The play calling has been a little suspect. He's still one of the only head coaches that still calls his own plays. I really think he's got it. Like, Matt Nagy handed that off, and look, the Bears actually called a decent game offensively. I think that's something that the Colts should look into doing. I know some players or some coaches, probably have a hard time relinquishing that, but I think it'd be beneficial for the Colts if they hand over the offensive play calling to Marcus Beard. Sorry, I know we dove a lot into.
No, I mean
the Colts here, but
this is why Frank Reich was on the list, because I knew that you would have a case against or for. No, I just think that this season for the Colts is gonna not necessarily season from hell, but I think there's gonna be enough ammunition for Reich to be fired.
Here's the only thing that him and Chris Ballard both got contract extensions before the season.
I didn't know he just got extended.
Yeah, they gave, I want to say 5-year contract extensions to both of them, maybe 4, maybe 3. But regardless, they got contract extensions, him and Chris Ballard. I think the team thinks very highly of him, but you're 100% right. Like, they need to take that next step. They made it to the playoffs last year with Phillip Rivers, and they came pretty damn close to beating or at least having a chance to beat the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
They had a chance. This was the year where they really needed to take a huge step forward, and they haven't particularly done that. They're 1-3 right now. I think if they have a losing season, I think next year Frank Reich could definitely be under the hot seat, but this year I don't particularly see it just yet.
Gotcha. We both mentioned Matt Nagy. I think Matt Nagy he's been destroyed in the media, rightfully so. He's got 3 quarterbacks all around the same starting caliber, and it's just kind of a disaster in Chicago. But I feel like if they have a winning season, he will stay, which is horrifying to Bears fans. Anyway, I have Pete Carroll on my list.
Really?
Yeah. I think that the Seahawks management, I think they would much rather stick with Russell Wilson than continuing to have. I think Pete Carroll is the second oldest coach in the league behind Belichick. I think when you look at Pete Carroll is the oldest.
He is the oldest.
Oh, okay, I knew he was up there. I just didn't know if it was 1 or 2. They're not playing well, and you look at their team on paper, and they should be playing well. I know that I know that Jamal Adams is not a cover safety, and he keeps getting killed in these situations where they're asking him to cover. But this team should be so much better than 2-2. I think. I know they're in the best division in football, but you have Russell Wilson. You have him paired with some very good wide receivers, whether it's DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett. You shouldn't be just barely beating the 49ers. This isn't a team to be doing that. You also they didn't get the brakes beaten off of them when they were when they lost to Minneapolis, but come on. And the Titans loss in overtime at home. I don't know. I've caught moments where I just don't think they're using Russ correctly.
They're not. And after
yeah.
the whole kerfuffle during this offseason, and even so far, it's not sure about him wanting out. They need to do more of a job of utilizing him correctly. I don't even know how else to put it. It's other than that. It's weird to see.
Yeah.
Better.
Yeah. And
but I do also think that Pete Carroll's kind of one of those guys where he's not particularly going to go anywhere unless they have a huge downfall. Like a full.
Yeah. No, I will agree that he's on my list because I think there should be a change, but do I think he will actually be fired? Probably not. Because I think the Russell Wilson's going to be enough to bring them to 9-10 wins. Yeah, simple as that. And there's such a weird thing in the NFL where if you win a Super Bowl early into your tenure, you sort of just have a pass forever. It's like I don't even know what coach to specifically pin it on, but it just seems to happen. It's like it's weird. If Jason Garrett had won a ring, and I don't know, just that he's stuck in his ways, and anytime let Russ cook goes wrong, he's immediately just like, oh, back to conservatism. And that's just not going to work. Straight up.
Funny is I have a coach that I think should be on the hot seat that almost fits the same exact bill that we just described for Pete Carroll.
Is it Mike Zimmer?
No, Sean Payton.
Oh, Sean Payton. Yeah. I don't think Sean Payton will ever be. I think Sean Payton leaves when Sean Payton wants to leave,
Exactly the same situation. A guy who was young when he won a Super Bowl back early in his tenure. Excuse me. I will say maybe was carried by a Hall of Fame quarterback. That's just my opinion. It's a weird situation. Yeah, he's gonna probably leave when he wants to leave. We'll see when that is. He's still super young. I think that's another team that really has not progressed. You see what's happening now that he does not have Drew Brees around anymore. I don't think that that's a good team. That was, in my opinion, that Week 1 showing was exactly what we've known Jameis is going to be. He's such an up and down quarterback. I don't fault them for rolling with Jameis this year. I really don't. I think that was the right move, for sure. But I don't know. It's
yeah.
It's a weird situation. I don't see the team doing much.
So I'm gonna push back a little bit. I actually think this is one of the most talented rosters in the NFL, especially on the defensive side of the football. There are playmakers throughout, and there are just stud to average level players at almost every single starting position on defense. Something that the Saints have prioritized seemingly almost every single draft since, I don't even know, but the trenches. They have always reset the trenches. And that is something that over the past couple years, you've really been able to pin to the Saints. Yes, their secondary is questionable, or it was questionable, or yes, their wide receivers are shit, but they can always block. And I think the problem doesn't lie with Jameis because, if you look at the numbers besides the Carolina game, Jameis has been solid.
He's played good, but they are second to last in passing yards per game.
And I think that's a Sean Payton problem. I think it's definitely a Sean Payton problem where he does not trust Jameis. And there's a path of plays, a set of plays that Peyton was running against the Giants, and we had this one play where Jameis threw like a 50-yard TD, but it was called back because you had a tight end blocking Leonard Williams, who is the Giants' maybe their best pass rusher, certainly one of their best line players. And it was called back, and it was like, shit, that was so awesome. And Sean Payton was like, fuck it, let's do it again. But this time, he put in Taysom Hill, who has a worse arm and is not a quarterback in the NFL. I know he sometimes throws the ball, but Taysom Hill's a football player. He's not a quarterback. And he throws it literally almost the same play, and he throws it right to a defender because Taysom Hill does not have a good deep ball. It was like, Sean Payton, what the fuck? Like, this is not. I'm in a fantasy football group chat with some old friends who are Giants fans, and as soon as that happened, I was like, wow, Sean Payton must have done a line of coke right before he did that, because that was insane. So I don't know if he should be fired, because one of the things I think Sean Payton is really good at is adjusting. You can see it in, sort of after the glory days of Breeze in these last couple years, where Breeze couldn't throw the ball downfield. Like, he could not extend the field whatsoever. And, they're still able to get, 10 plus wins every season. So I think these past 4 years, I know they haven't gone beyond the conference championship game. Thank you, Rams defender. Appreciate you. I will actually never forget where I was for that call. Anyway, I will never forget where I was. And I think that's a testament to Sean. But I do agree with you that Sean Payton is certainly leading them down not a great path. Anyway, he could be doing much better. Moving on, I'll have two quick ones, and then we'll wrap up because we're leaking into an hour. For me, the two others are Mike Zimmer. I know the Vikings are playing above their station right now, but I do not think this is a good football team, and this is just, I think this is sort of setting itself up for, they're 1-3, but I still think they're worse than that. I don't think they have any help on the lines besides like two players on the defensive line. Kirk Cousins is putting up good numbers, but that's really the only good thing about this season. I know the Lions are in division, so that's 2 wins easy, but yeah, I think it's coming to an end there.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I think it's hard because I really don't know what's holding that Vikings team back. Like, why have they not been able to jump? Right? In years past, Mike Zimmer, he's a defensive guy. He's had a good defense there. They've not phenomenal this year. It's weird. They've invested so much in corner and they just cannot get that shit together. Their offense has been solid with a good passing game, good running game. I don't know why they're not winning.
Yeah, I think it's sort of one of those things where it's just sort of time. And last one on my list, Arthur Smith. I think Arthur Smith could be one and done with the Atlanta Falcons, to be honest with you.
See, I didn't name any of the first year head coaches. I really hate when I think it's such a waste, it's such a detriment to the entire program, but your entire organization if you're a one and done kind of team. Like that's why the Browns have been so horrible for years. Like Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you don't want to go one and done. Like, that's just.
Yeah.
I don't know. But another guy who initially I thought was maybe one and done, but is not. He's already been with the team for 2 years. That probably should not be with the team much longer. Joe Judge. What do you think about him? Quick thoughts.
Oh, wow.
Impressive win. I give him that, but Danny Dimes, I don't think he's the guy. That defense is mid. That offense has not progressed. Maybe it's kind of headed.
Hey, Dimes just put up a career high against a defense I thought was very solid. So I definitely. I think I have a little bit of recency bias just because I watched that team and I was like, wow, like they're making such good calls here, blah 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 blah. I don't think I think the seat might be getting warm, but I think the Mara family really likes Joe Judge. I think that they see that he really inspires his team and that he is like.
Well, hold on, buddy.
He is like dead serious about winning football games. Yeah. So
it was interesting to hear some of the stuff he was doing in the offices.
Oh.
Like get her, running.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. Give him more time. I'm a huge proponent of giving. Like I understand sometimes it's just not working. And you gotta cut the ties right then and there. But I think 2 seasons minimum, 3 seasons minimum, in my opinion, is what it takes for someone to kind of come into their own and figure it out.
Word. All right, real quick. Last thing. Favorite non-contender for any reason. / fakest 3-1 team.
I can't. Okay, I'm saying this non-biased.
Okay.
I genuinely think the Colts are the best of these worst teams. Right? Even when they were 0-3 coming into last week, it's like, damn, we're 0-3 with the Falcons, with the Jags, with the Giants. I was like, we're miles better than all of these teams. I genuinely think that the Colts still have a chance to make a little bit of noise, maybe sneak into the playoffs. I really think that could be a solid team that could still be somewhat contentious. Maybe.
Got you.
Fakest 3-1 team. Praise them early. It's gotta be.
Yeah, I also have the Bengals on my list. I think for the fakest 3-1 team, I think there's only 2 answers. And I think it's the Bengals and I think it's the Broncos and yeah, no, real easy. I'm just gonna name my favorite non-contenders and then we'll get out of here. For me, it's got to be the Jags and the Jets. Just storyline wise, those two are just so fun to watch for me, and the Jags are so sort of volatile because Lawrence will have a stretch where he's looking really good, and then he'll throw, like, against the Cardinals, like, oh my god, he threw that awful flea flicker pick 6. Oh my goodness. I tuned into I was watching Red Zone, and when I saw that happen, oh my god, it was just a disaster. And the Jets, I think, I don't know why, but I think some Jets fans were mean to me in middle school or something like that. I very much enjoy the Jets not doing well, and I think just Jets Twitter is it's so much it's so much better when the Jets are not good. And yeah, that's all I got. Yeah. Any others for you?
Those two.
All right.
You know what? I also like seeing the Texans not do well. I'll leave it
The
at
Texans are kind of a clown show, and I enjoy that too. All right, AJ. Well, appreciate you for coming on. Looking forward to getting the next one in at the end of week 8.
Look forward to it, man.
All right, you enjoy yourself.
Take it easy.
Peace. And that was our first episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I know there were some audio problems. We're still sort of figuring that out, but it'll get much better. I promise you. If you haven't already, make sure you're shared, subscribed. Check us out on Instagram. Check us out on Twitter. We are all there. Make sure you check out latanique.news. That is where I write. And, check out previous podcasts. We've got some great stuff there, and I'm looking forward to talking to y'all in the future. Stay safe, get them vaccines, and peace.